moving to another segment which MK will
It
introduce.
is time for our monthly current affairs segment with the extraordinary Carly Krakow. Welcome, Carly.
Hi, thank you. Hey, Bassam and MK, great to be with you.
Hi, Carly. We are very excited to have you, and we are looking forward to your segment.
Yeah, I'm going to jump right in, but always so much to cover and have an update about this segment at the end that we'll address. But I've selected just a few key topics and we'll get right to it. I want to start with an update that relates to what I would say is one of the most pressing public health and environmental justice issues in the US today. As many will know already, Joe Biden has proposed a major infrastructure overhaul in the US. And one aspect of this plan is a proposal to remove and upgrade all lead pipes. So many of our viewers will be extremely familiar with the dangers of lead in drinking water because of the now infamous situation in Flint, Michigan, dating back to 2014, when state appointed emergency managers decided to change the city's water source to save money during a financial crisis. This led to an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease, extremely dangerous levels of lead as well. And there is no safe level of lead for children or adults, and this can lead to irreversible neurological damage, among other issues. Flint is one of many places in the country. There have been incidents in Washington, D.C. and Newark, New Jersey, and lead pipes continue to dominate water infrastructure from Chicago to Pittsburgh and elsewhere. So, a situation to follow closely, especially as former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder and others were criminally charged earlier this year for their role in Flint. And I think there needs to be continued pressure, and there will be pressure on the Biden administration and on the Environmental Protection Agency to make sure this plan goes far enough. So, hopefully, one step towards addressing a major source of environmental racism in the US, and lead poisoning is really a long brewing crisis worldwide beyond the US as well. So, hopefully, a much needed step in the right direction here and the first of more changes ahead. Next, everyone will, of course, have heard by now that Derek Chauvin was convicted in April for the murder of George Floyd. So, this is by no means breaking news anymore. There has been major coverage of this in recent weeks, but since this is our month at a glance type program, I wanted to address it along with a new update just this week, which is that, not entirely surprisingly, Derek Chauvin has appealed the guilty verdict. His attorneys are alleging jury misconduct and claiming that pretrial publicity affected the trial, among other things, such as a question about whether a juror had previously attended a protest against police brutality. So, this segment alone certainly cannot fully address the appeal. I'm not attempting that here today. But I think one thing worth mentioning that stands out is this issue of publicity influence on the trial. Because right in the midst of the trial, just miles away in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, a police officer shot and killed Dante Wright, a 20-year-old Black man who had been pulled over for a traffic violation. Also in April, a video was widely circulated that showed footage from back in December in which Karen Nazario, a U.S. Army second lieutenant, was pulled over by police, allegedly in a traffic stop, and subsequently harassed, assaulted, and pepper sprayed by police officers. This was in Virginia. So I can't possibly do this video justice just by recounting it. I'm sure many have seen it, but it is shocking. I haven't even mentioned yet the fatal police shooting of Adam Toledo at 13 years old in Chicago. And there are so many other killings that I haven't mentioned here. These are all just roughly in the past month, the ones that I've addressed so far. So again, this isn't a full analysis of the appeal by any means, but it raises the question of how can we expect to have jurors isolated from any publicity influence when the media coverage is not about George Floyd alone, because police killings of Black people and police violence more broadly in this country are so constant and so systemic that numerous incidents separate from the Derek Chauvin trial occurred while this very trial was going on. The issue is unavoidable in the United States. And there's so much that has been said far beyond what I've just briefly recapped. There was tremendous relief upon this guilty verdict, and also fears that Chauvin will be held up as the exception to the norm rather than triggering a deep and desperately needed overhaul of policing in this country. So, a critical situation to continue to come back to. Last news update, I want to address the situation in India, where there is a crisis as the country surpasses 20 million reported COVID cases, but the number is believed to actually be much higher. And I think the best thing I can do with the brief time I have is to quote the words of writer Arundhati Roy, who in a new long piece in The Guardian writes, "Oxygen is the new currency on India's morbid new stock exchange. Healthcare is a fundamental right. The private sector will not cater to starving, sick, dying people who don't have money. The massive privatization of India's healthcare is a crime. The system hasn't collapsed. The government has failed. Perhaps failed is an inaccurate word, because what we are witnessing is not criminal negligence, but an outright crime against humanity. Virologists predict that the number of cases in India will grow exponentially to more than 500,000 a day. So again, that was Arundhati Roy, and I think her words here get to the very core of the situation. She is addressing the governmental failures and what she explains is a crime against humanity in India, and I think that her incisive analysis about the failure of the privatized healthcare system is profound, and also something that resonates around the world and right here in the US too, where we saw during the height of the pandemic here what lack of access to healthcare means during an emergency and the devastation that failure to recognize healthcare as a human right will lead to. So, extremely dire times in India for everyone still up against the brutality of the COVID-19 pandemic, and many more details available in her article, as mentioned. So those are my news updates this month, but I want to conclude for today with some exciting news about the future of this segment. And Bassam has already been teasing this the past few episodes and today as well. But I'm glad to announce that my segment here, The Catch Up, is going to be launched in a new form as its very own video podcast. We're always saying how the current affairs topics covered here, each one could really be a full-length program in its own right. Rapid fire moving through these. So I have so many of my own questions about the topics I cover, and it's really going to be wonderful to go deeper into the analysis and to have conversations with some brilliant guests who can offer their insights on these critical issues in the US, the Middle East, and beyond. So I'm putting a lot of work right now into the production stages of this, and in the meantime, I will continue to share updates here on Live with ASI. And then in the future, as Bassam has mentioned, my updates will build on the information presented in these new podcast episodes. So I'm really grateful to share my analysis on this platform, and it's been a pleasure to conduct some incredible interviews. So excited to continue to be a part of this fantastic team and looking forward to contributing in this new way as well. And just want to say thank you to you, Bassam, especially, and our entire LWA team. Can't wait for what is ahead. So everyone, please just stay tuned for more in the coming period, and we'll see you again very soon.
Thank you, Carly, for everything that you
Thank
do
you.
and for making us look like we're professional, because we kind
We
of
don't. So
Thank you very much, Carly.
It's a balance of all the
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
It's
all
like the
moving
universe.
parts.
yeah.
So we hope to
Yes.
see you soon in a new and refurbished segment where we'll still host you. But there's so much interest in what you have been addressing episode after episode that we feel it does require like sort of its own segment. But you will still be coming in, I hope, to talk about it and address it in short form so people can go off and do it. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
We will.
Carly.
Thanks.
Thanks, Carly. We will now
Thank
move.
you.
I was told